This is a brief tutorial for the game The Guild of Merchant Explorers, as played on Board Game Arena. This is a game where you are, through 4 arrows, flipping over a set of cards and then filling in your map to try to explore different areas and get various points and objectives. Each map is owned by a specific player, so you have your own map and everybody else does too. And all the cards affect everybody in the same way, except certain cards give you special powers. And so your maps will diverge in the way that you fill them in, depending on the choices that you make and the various individual powers that you get. But let's take a look here at the map here. This is where you are placing down various cubes when items flip over. So if you look up here, these are the different cards that will flip over in each era. And it will show you, BGA does a nice little tracking job here for you. It shows you this is the current one that's being flipped. This lets you explore 2 desert spaces. But then there are these other 5 that are not flipped. These 4 are pretty straightforward, and we'll talk about what those are. And then this era card will make some things differently happen. But before we get to that, let's talk about what these individual explore cards mean. So this says explore 2 desert spaces. You can see on this map that there are different hexes that are around here, and each hex has a biome, a terrain type. So there's the deserts, these gray ones, there's the mountains, there's the grasslands, and then there's water. Those are the various terrain types, and these cards are associated with that. So in this case, you can explore, meaning place little cubes on 2 different desert types, and they don't have to be connected for this card. Now, when you start, you have this city center. This one is always owned. You always have that one as a starting point, and so you can, for your first turn, you can do any you can explore any hexes that are connected to this city center. Now, currently, because we're only on this desert here, this is my only option because it's the only desert that is connected to this city center. But in later eras, you're going to have more options, and we'll see a little bit about how that works out. Also, it's important to understand that when you see a terrain type on in an area, the grouping of that terrain type is considered a region, and whenever you fill a region, then you can place a village on it. We'll see a little bit about how that works. But for now, all we get to do is place 2 desert spaces. And so we decide to place our 2 spots, one here, and now that we've placed this one here, we have both options there. So you always have to be touching at least either a city or a village that you own, or another cube, another spot that you've explored already. So once we decide to click this one, then we have the 2 options here. You can see this one right here has a little coin on it. Coins are points for the end of the game, and so some of them have 2 coins on them. This one has 1. There's other ways to get coins, but when you explore that, you get that number of points just immediately. So I decide to explore that one. I get the point immediately. And then after everybody else has chosen how to do their 2 desert spaces, then the turn ends. And you will see, once BGA lets me get through this, you can see that your 2 spots have been placed. And now we have a few extra places that we can go. This next card that came up, this was the any spot. So this is kind of wild. However, they have to be connected. That's why you can see what my available spots here are anything that's touching one of these 3 already. So I could do this city space and this ocean space, or this mountain and this water, or this grassland and this mountain. There's no limit on the terrain type, but they do have to be connected. And so you just continue doing that. And so this one here, any 2 grasslands. This is any 1 mountain. This one here is is 3 C spaces, but they have to be in a straight line. And it doesn't have to be all 3 spaces, but at least 3. So I could start here and just go up to that one and it'd just be 2, or I could go this way, 1, 2, 3, and have 3 in a row. These C spaces are important because you don't want to be completely stuck on this middle island. You want to get out to the other island as well. All right, so let's see if I choose to create a village in this spot. I do. So I fill in this last spot with this new with this card. So I'm going to fill in this spot and then one of the ocean spots. It doesn't really matter which one. But now that I filled in all 3 of these spots in the region, I get to choose one of them that is replaced by a village. And you can see this one has a circle around it and this one has a circle around it. I get to pick either one of those that is replaced by a village. You can see down here, this is what the village looks like. And in each era, a village gives you 1 or more points. So we're in era 1, so it only gives me 1 point. But I'll get that immediately. And then there's an added benefit to having a village. The thing is, after an era is done, which is once these cards have all gone through, all of the little squares here, the cubes here, are cleared off the board. And you start over. However, your city center and any villages that you've placed stay between eras. So if I place a village here, which I believe I did, let's see. Yeah, I chose the village there. It places that village, and now at the end of the era, while these 2 blocks will go away, this village will stay, and on my next era, I can start from here instead of having to start from the center. Okay, this is, again, I'm filling this 2, so I'm going to pick one of these other ones that's adjacent to it. In that case there. Filling in those 2, everybody else fills in theirs, and we see a new card come out. All right, so now the next card that we've seen is this era card. Now these are the most powerful cards in the game for you, and they are unique to each player. So what happens every time one of these comes out, there's going to be a new one that comes out in the first era, second era, and third era. And in the fourth era, there's kind of an extra thing that you get to do. But whenever one of these era cards comes out, you get to choose one of these 2 investigate cards that are more powerful than the normal cards. So in my case, these are the 2 that I got, but every player gets 2 different ones that they get to choose one of. This one says, hey, you can explore up to 1 sea and 3 mountain species in any order. They don't have to be connected, but they do it as long as they're connected to one of your, current explored places. Or I can choose the up to 4 sea spaces, and then any adjacent coin spaces to those sea spaces, I will be able to explore as well. So like if I chose this one, I could fill in, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these coin spaces would be adjacent. I would get those as well. I may even do something like that. Or I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get this adjacent space up here, and I get 2 coins directly from that. Plus I explore this, which helps me get to different places around. I believe I did choose this one on this round, and so that becomes my era 1 card. That means anytime that this era 1 card comes up in future rounds, I get to use this power. Other players will have their own powers that they get to use whenever the one comes up, but this will be my era 1 power. And so I decide to choose that. Everybody else chooses theirs. And now since that 1 card came up, I am going to actually do the explore part of that and fill in those waters and coin options. I believe I go up to this spot up here and explore around there. Yeah, you can see I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and it kind of shows me as you click it, it will kind of give you the added bonuses. The 4th one I'm going to do is this shipwreck. Whenever you do a shipwreck tile, whenever you explore one of those tiles, it draws from a deck of cards, and then you'll have some sort of immediate effect or an ongoing effect. It could be immediately get 2 points, or immediately place another block anywhere, or start collecting these. And if you collect 4, for the more you collect, the more points you get. Or at the end of the game, for every village you have on a mountain space, you get an extra point. So they're just different things that they do. They're all pretty self-explanatory, but they happen whenever you explore one of these treasure tiles. And when you do that, it like marks that tile as explored. So like in a future era, even though the tile itself will now be blank, you can't go back and explore it a second time. So in this case, I just got 2 points. That was my reward for it. And since I've done the 4 water spaces, I can do any adjacent coin spaces, which in this case, it was this one. And so I was able to select that one as well. Get those immediate 2 points. And we move on to the next card in the deck. That fills it in, and then the next one is a mountain, and here are my options for mountain. So BGA does a really nice job of showing you what your options are, but it can be a little finicky, so just kind of, it'll say, hey, you need to, like whenever you fill in a region, make sure you're selecting one of the areas for the region. I should mention too that like when I created this village, it only gave me these 2 as options. You can't ever put a village on a spot with a coin on it. That's just one of the rules. And you continue to do that. Okay, so we talked about some of the ways you get points. You get points by creating villages. You get points by landing on these spots. One of the other big ways to get points is by connecting cities. So you can see these cities here with different numbers on them. And they also have they are spots that you can explore, and they have their terrain type with them. So like this is a desert, this one is a grassland, and let's see, there's this one down here is a mountain that you can see. If you can connect through your trade route pathing 2 different cities, then you will get points at the end of that era, or points when you connect them, that is as those 2 numbers multiplied. So if I connect this one here with this one here, then I get 9 points. 3 times 3. If I connect this 3 and 2, I get 6 points. There's even a 4 down here. If you could connect a 4 to a 3, that's 12 points. So that can be a really significant source of points that you can get during your eras. Now I'm going to show you what that looks like, because there's a bit of a tricky thing that you need to understand when you're connecting cities to get those points. I'll move forward to an example of that. Okay, so we are later in that era of 2 things, and the last card that came up was this explore 2 grassland spots. Well, I happen to be connected to this city here and this city here, and they're both grassland ones, so I selected both of them to be part of that explore action. And now I've made a connection, because you can go all the way through here, and you've got this nice little connection between the 2 cities, and that will get me 6 points. 3 times 2. However, it's now asking me where I want to place a trading post. What that means is, now that I've connected these 2, this 3 and this 2, I have to choose one of them to put a trading post on, which basically covers up that city. It means I can't use it in a future era to link 2 together. So if I cover this 3 up, I can't link this 3 to a different city in order to get 6 or 9 or whatever many points that is. So typically I would probably, these more uncommon cities, I'm going to cover those up, because I might want to connect that 2 to something over here, because that one will, only one of them covers up, and I get to choose which one it is. And I believe I chose this one to cover. So, and then it does it like that. It's still a grassland spot. It can still be explored, but it can no longer be used to link two cities together for those multiplier points. It's all right. My 2 is still there. I can connect that eventually as well. But then at the end of the turn, you'll see these 2 will have an explore spot on them. But then that was the last card of the game of the era, sorry. And so all of these other cubes are going to clear out, but a few things will stay, and we'll look at that in a minute here. So everybody ends exploration. Now we're on to era 2. And notice everything cleared out here, except my village that I created, the trading post I just put down, and all of my explored shipwrecks. So I can't explore those again. But now when we start with desert again, just these are shuffled each time, so it's different every time. This happened to be a desert, but now instead of starting from the city center, I can start from here. You can see my, this player here was able to get all the way over here and create a village over there. So now they can start way over here, instead of from their city center. So you can see, this person put 2 villages, and so they have more options in that way. This one had 3 villages in that first round. And there's different strategies. Having those villages early is nice because you have more starting points, but putting villages later in later eras gets you more points for the villages themselves. Once you have a village in a region, you can't put a second village there. So, these middle villages are easier to get, but if you get them early in the game, you don't get as many points for them. So that's something to consider. You'll also notice that now that we're in Era 2, there's an Era 2 card. This is going to happen the same way. When that 2 flips, I'm going to get a choice of 2 new cards that will be similar in style. It'll let me cover up multiple things. Whereas you can see the other players here all have different Era 1 cards. This one, this player is just able to do 2 mountains and 3 desert whenever that 1 card comes up, which is completely different from mine. So our maps are going to look completely different each round. Even more so as we go on, because we have those powers. But again, whenever that 1 card comes up, this is my power, this is this player's power, and so on and so forth. They're all very self-explanatory, these different powers, but you can always hover over them. All right, a couple more things and ways to get points. You can see these purple towers here. Those are, I think they're called towers or discovery towers. I'm not sure the official name for them, but these are just places where you want to try to get to and place an explorer, trade route token on, because if you do, you get points. For the first one that you do, you get 6 points, and then for the second one is 8, then 10, then 14, and that's not cumulative. Each time you do one, you get that many points depending on how many, which number of them it is. So that could be a huge number of points if you get all 4. The tiles themselves don't have a terrain type, so you can put you could put any a cube on it, or a cube on it for any type that you happen to show on the card. The trick is getting there, right? They're on the 4 corners of the map, and so they get a little trickier to get to. Finally, there are these public goals. These will basically give you 10 points if you're the first one to get them, and 5 points for everyone else who gets them. And so there's a bit of a race. It's kind of the only interaction you're going to have between the different players. It's to see if you can get those before other people do. They're very straightforward. This is placing 2 trading posts, which is, again, you place a trading post when you connect 2 cities. This is place them on cities valued 3 or greater. This is placing villages on 3 different lands. Lands are these entire you can see how these are separated as lands, just kind of land masses that are separated by water. And this one is discover a village on a region of 5 spaces or larger. So, this one right here, for instance, is 5 spaces, whereas the one I put on here was only 3. And so most of these ones farther out are the bigger regions. So if that's the goal there, then you have to kind of get out to those places and then fill those in. At first, you may feel like how am I supposed to do all this stuff with so few cards? But especially as you get more and more of those power cards, you're going to be able to get a lot of what you want on the map. In the fourth era, so you get an era 1 card, an era 2 card, an era 3 card, and then in the fourth era, you're going to get an extra card that lets you just pick any one of the three to redo a second time during that round. So that can be super helpful, give you some flexibility around which ones you want. At the end of 4 rounds, once you've gone through this deck 4 times, you will total up points, and any points that you get from your treasure cards will be added at that time as well. And then whoever has the most points wins. Now, this is the Avena map. There are 4 maps that this implementation comes with, and so you may see a different map that will have a lot of the same stuff, but be but we'll maybe have some tweak or just look a little different. I'll show you here in a second a couple of the other maps, but this one here, there's no, here are kind of the map rules. It's a very basic map. All it says is, this is what a land is considered: spaces isolated by sea, the border of the map, or both. So that's the only kind of specific rule around Avena. But let's look at a couple other maps. Here is the map of Agon. Very similar, but a lot of the lands are very small, kind of these smaller islands. You've got some spaces that have 3 coins instead of 1 or 2. But really no other additional rules. It's just kind of a different configuration. This map here is called Sea Nadaria, I think, and it's got a few extra little rules to it. So one is the jagged peaks here cannot be explored. Those are off limits. You can see the ruin spaces, the shipwreck spaces have little token or symbols on them. Some goals will apply to those, like this one here, explore a ruin space. Those are those shipwreck spaces of each type. And then it's got these crystal spots here that are cumulative scores. So if I discover this one, then I get 1 point, and then if I later discover this one, I get 2 plus 1 points, and then if I discover later this one, 3 plus 2 plus 1. You don't have to do them in order. If I do 1, then 4, 4 plus 1. So a little bit different there. There aren't nearly as many lands per se, but there are still a few. It's just a little bit differently situated. You've got some bigger cities here, like a 5 and a 4 there. So some opportunities for some big points around those. And that's, you can see the crystals can only be explored once. You can still put things on there in later, but you can only get the points for the spot 1 time. And let's look at the last one too. Finally, here is the map Kazan. This one's got a few things that you've seen in some of the other maps. These volcano spots are not explorable. You cannot put anything on them. You'll notice that there are some of these regions that have coins on every square. That means if you fill them out, there's no place to put a village. So while it does give you a lot of points just to a 4-point spot is really good, you always have to put a square on a place where there isn't a coin. And so like for this one, you wouldn't be able to add a village there. And then similar to the last, the ruin spot have markings, in this case letters, and they can often be related to the goals. Like this one says, explore the northeastern Discovery Tower and Ruin Space C. So it wants you specifically to get this one and this one, and that will give you that that goal. Often the goals are the goals are always map dependent, and so you won't see this goal obviously if you're not using the Kazan map. Everything else is the same, so there's just a few little variations between the maps, but all the cards are the same, and most of the points and the way the points are scored are the same. Just gives you a little variety as you go through it. All right, that is how you play the Guild of Merchant Explorers. Hope this was helpful. Thanks.